Hey friends. Um, I wanted to talk a little bit more about my own evolution and how I came to be doing the work that I'm doing today and all of that. Okay, so I'm not sure how far back I want to start. I think I should have thought of this before I started the video. Um, but maybe I'll start um, just about 10 or so years ago. And I had my first really big spiritual awakening. It was like 2010, I think. And it was, my first kind of reintroduction to myself as more than this physical body. Until then, I had been kind of skirting in and out of my energy field. My training in energy healing and biodynamic craniosacral therapy were really big initiations, and that happened like at the end of the 90s into the beginning of 2000. But I feel in a really big way that my understanding of my energy body and my spirituality was still very much cognitive, right? It was still very much in my brain, in my mind, and not embodied. And so everything that I was remembering about who I am as an infinite being um, was really going through the filter of my mind. And I don't want to demonize the mind because the mind is a really beautiful instrument, right? It's brilliant. And I honor that. But at the same time, the mind can be easily manipulated, and the mind doesn't always tell us the full truth, and unless the mind is in alignment with the heart. That's just what I've come to see and feel. Doesn't have to be your truth. Nothing I say has to be your truth. You can listen to me and be like, okay, she's crazy and ridiculous, and I don't believe anything she says, and I completely honor that. This is your life, this is your path, and you need to discover your truth for yourself. I don't want to be I don't want to be anybody's guru. I'm not trying to be anybody's God, right? I don't think any one of us should be. But I think there's tremendous value in learning from one another's experience and taking what resonates for us on our own journey and just leaving behind what doesn't resonate. And it could be that it doesn't resonate now. And it's just a seed that gets planted that like 10, 15 years from now, you have this experience and you're like, oh my gosh, wow. She said that like 10 years ago, and I thought it was total bullshit. And now it makes total sense. You were ready to hear it at that moment, and you might get to a point where like, that still doesn't resonate for me, and that's okay. So my spirituality and my connection to my energy body was still very much in my mind back in like 2010, 11, 12. And I was still kind of figuring things out. It's a journey for all of us. We all go through phases of evolution and development and understanding and wisdom. You know, we never get to the point when we're here that we have all the answers. And if we are living our lives from a place like we think we have all the answers and we know what it is and how it is and why it is, and we're no longer curious and we're no longer seeking and we're no longer open to new information, then we're not on our true path. So important to stay curious about everything. So in this life, I think that we go on these underworld journeys, right? And these underworld journeys, some people call them dark nights of the soul. They're meant to help us to deconstruct systems and beliefs and ideologies and programs that no longer serve us. And when we're on these underworld journeys, these dark nights of the soul, hanging and resting and anguishing often in these dark liminal spaces, in that void, we fall into this deep sense of being lost. We feel lost. And it's a really challenging place to be. So at the end of 2017, I dropped into probably my third underworld journey, like deep dark night of the soul underworld journey. Like yeah, to the end of 2017, when my soulmate dog Rosie died. Everything in my life was falling apart. And Rosie was she was my heart tether. She was the piece that was kind of my glue that was keeping me tethered to this life, because she was pure love. If any one of you has ever had a heart or a soul dog or cat, you know what I'm talking about. And I lost her kind of suddenly, and I lost her in really challenging circumstances, because I was coming to the end of my marriage. And we had been married for, oh my gosh, it was probably 16 years. And that was really hard. And there was a lot of kind of emotional and financial abuse happening. And losing her at that time was really challenging. And I thought that that was like the end, right? Not of my life, but of, I thought that that was the thing that was going to plunge me down. But then a month later, I lost my dad. And then I had to leave my life here and go take care of my mother, who had dementia, Alzheimer's. And so I had to move home for 2 years. And I lost my community. I lost my support. I lost my woods and my faith community, that, my sanctuary that I have here. I just felt just ungrounded and just excavated from what I thought was real. And then I got a divorce. And then my mom died. And I just felt like I was obliterated. right? Like everything and everyone that I had, besides my daughter, who is still here and is still a very powerful tether for me, I felt like everything that I had, everything that I believed, everyone that I loved, everything was just taken, and I was just untethered. And I was there from the end of 2017 until the beginning of 2022. I just felt disconnected and dead. And I didn't like it. And I was trying so hard to find all of those things that used to give me life. But as it is in this life and any journey, right? It's all forward movement, right? It's not, we can't go back. So I was in this place where I was like looking back at how much joy and connection and unconditional love that I felt for myself and my life and for all of life back in the 2010, 11, 12, 13-ish. And I was looking for that. I was trying to reconnect with that. But I had to realize that that was over. That is in the past. That already happened. And I'm not that person anymore. As much as I loved that and felt so alive and connected in that, that version of me doesn't exist anymore. And I had to ask myself, who am I now? And so one day I was sitting with my dear friend Hazel, who was very committed to helping me answer that question. And she asked me to connect with HeartSoul Essence. And I hadn't really connected with that term for my higher self, because in my first awakening, in that time that I felt so alive and so connected, it was all higher self, right? My higher self. And she said, connect with HeartSoul Essence. And I said, okay. And so I closed my eyes and I went within and I asked HeartSoul Essence to come to me. And I saw this vision of this being stand before me, a vision, a being that I had seen before, that I had known before. And she looked at me and she said, it's time for us to take a journey. And I said, okay. And she grabbed my essence, my energy, and we dove down. And when we came up, we were standing in a hospital room on a maternity ward in 1966, the day I was born. And we were standing over a bassinet looking at a newborn infant who was really scared and cold and crying, completely dysregulated, an overwhelmed body in shock, completely alone. And I realized I was looking at myself. And I felt that in my body. I felt that energy reverberate inside of me on such a core level that I started to cry. And she put her hand on my shoulder and she said, pick that baby up, pick yourself up and hold her to your chest and help her discharge that shock and regulate her nervous system. Use your cranial work training to help her to co-regulate her nervous system. And I thought, my nervous system isn't any more regulated than hers is right now. How am I going to help her? I feel just as dysregulated. And HeartSoul Essence said, I'm here. Pick her up. And so I did. I reached down and I picked my infant self up and I held her to my chest, skin to skin. And we trembled together. And HeartSoul Essence came behind us and enveloped us in her energy, in her light, in her beingness, in my beingness, in our collective beingness. And I felt the shock start to discharge. I felt my energy start to tremble and these parts start to tremble and snap back in. All the stuff that was just outside of me, all of the parts of me, so many of the parts of me that were outside of me that I had disassociated from, that I had pushed away because it was too much to feel, all snap back. And I felt my energy realign to my embryonic midline, to that incarnation energy force that is the midline, that runs down the midline of our body. And it was this beautiful gold, yellow, white light that wasn't coming from God or anything else. It was me. It was my energy, my life force, my incarnation energy force, reweaving itself into my cellular matrix of my physical body, reconnecting me to my greater being, reconnecting me to my timelines, to my dimensions, all the aspects of me out in this multiverse, realigning me with my sacred, authentic soul path. I wasn't expecting that. But it changed my life. It changed my life as I knew it. And it allowed me a new starting point, for lack of a better term. I went from feeling dead to feeling completely alive and on purpose. My abilities started to return. I was hearing, the clairaudience, the clairsentience, the clairvoyance, all of those are still coming back online. But it just realigned me with my path, my sacred purpose, what I came here to experience and do and feel and love and live and all of it. And it also helped me to see how I had been living here and how limiting that was for me. And that's when higher self morphed and changed into HeartSoul Essence. Because HeartSoul Essence to me was the embodiment of my greater being. And embodiment is the whole point. Higher self was thinking and up and out, connecting out to something greater or better or like higher, right? It's an up and out. Heart Soul Essence is down and in. It's about the reweaving of our soul energy into these amazing, miraculous bodies and being in alignment with that, being in connection with that. That reweaving takes us from a journey where we're looking for answers outside of ourselves and our mind trying to figure things out cognitively by looking to other sources, to religion, and I'm not saying that we don't learn from those sources, because we do. There's wisdom and bits of, truth at the foundation of all religion. But the point where spirit truth, a spiritual authenticity, a soul authenticity, right, goes from being a truth, a universal truth, to being a religion, is when it gets disembodied. Can you feel that? So if you if you look at the basic like tenets of all religion, right? All organized religion, the basic tenets are the truth. And then they take that truth and they pull it out of us, away from us, and into a structure of power and control that has rules and things that you need to do, that you need to process, that you need to follow in order to win your deity's love and affection. That's gross, right? It takes it from being a heart connected experience, just an innate truth, to being something of the mind that's used to control. I'm not even sure how I got on that tangent. But my dark night of the soul, my underworld journey, was about that. And it's not that I was super into religion because, at the time, but my understanding of my spirituality was still couched and within the framework of religion. It was still very patriarchal. My use of higher self was very religion and patriarchal, because even though I thought of the higher self still as me, she was outside of me. My underworld journey was about just dissolving me, dissolving everything that I thought that I knew, and then rebirthing me into my truth. And that's why I use HeartSoul Essence. And I first learned of that term because it's not my term. I first learned of that term from an amazing human author, George Kavasilis. He wrote a book called Our Universal Journey, and he has just an amazing life, an amazing school and teachings. And I haven't studied with George. I read his book, and my friend Hazel does study with George and learns from him. And so kind of through Hazel and just through, reading his book, I came to that term, heart, soul, essence. And it really feels like truth, like a universal truth. And I've been feeling like I needed to share that story, the wholeness of that story, and acknowledge George and his gift of bringing that forward into the world in his authentic way. Whoa, that was a weird word. And his authentic journey and his authenticity, right? Bringing that forth from his heart, soul, essence, from his greater being, and gifting the world with that understanding, because it's really important. The embodiment is really important. Okay. I think that's it. I would really love to hear your thoughts. So please comment and share if you feel compelled or feel, like this message would help people. If you're new to my channel, please give me a like and a follow. We're creating a new world here, and I would absolutely love to create it with you. Blessed be, friends.